Hey friends, it's Laurie. Today I'm sharing some of my favorite Christmas and winter DIYs, so let's get busy. I'm starting this DIY by using one of the elf hats from the Dollar Tree. I removed the tag and I'm using some polyfill that I had on hand to fill the inside of the hat. If you don't have polyfill on hand, you can use anything at all, paper towels or newspaper, or even some socks, anything at all that will have the hat standing up straight. To keep the polyfill from falling out, I'm using a piece of cardboard, and this was actually a frozen pizza insert, and I'm just tracing the hat onto the cardboard. It's going to come out a weird shape, and when I was done, I used my scissors and I cut it out. I then made sure that it would fit into place. I popped it out, added some hot glue, and attached it under the hat. Once it's glued into place and my hat can stand on its own, there's a little bit extra of that faux fur on the sides, so I just used my glue gun and kind of folded it up so that it was nice and tight to the hat. I'm adding a white tulle accent to the bottom of the hat, and I found mine in the wedding department at Dollar Tree. I'm cutting my tulle into 6-inch pieces. To make cutting the tulle easier, I cut out a 6-inch piece of cardboard, and then all I do is wrap the tulle around it until the roll is finished. When I'm done, I cut both ends, and then my tulle is ready to use. I'm going to be attaching 3 sheets of tulle together, and you want to either use a white chenille stem or some wire, and of course, this is all I had for white chenille stem, so I just opted to use my wire. Attaching the 3 sheets together is super easy. I just gathered them in the center, and I wasn't really fussy that the edges were all perfect. I wrapped a small piece of wire around the center, twisted it together tightly. I cut off the end, and then the little tail, I just kind of folded it over. I used about 2.5 rolls of the white tulle, and I continued making them until I had a little bouquet. Adding the tulle to the bottom of the hat is super easy. All I did was add a dot of hot glue onto that faux white fur, and then just place a piece of tulle against it. I continued working my way around until the bottom of the hat was completely covered in the white tulle. When you're adding the tulle, you can make it as thick or as thin as you like. I'm making this for a friend, and she asked for a big bow, so I'm using 2 of these ribbons from the Dollar Tree and this green sparkly one from the Christmas tree shop. I used my bow maker, and I placed down a piece of floral wire first. I measured my first ribbon tail at 6 inches, and then I made 4 6-inch loops and another 4-inch tail. Then, using my next ribbon, I made a 6-inch tail, and then about 4 5 3/4-inch loops, and then another 6-inch tail. And from there, I finished off with my green ribbon and a 6-inch tail, 4 5-inch loops, and my final 6-inch tail. I wrapped it all up with my floral wire, and then I fluffed out the loops. When I was done, I then cut off the excess wire on the bottom, and then using my glue gun, I attached it to the side of the hat. To embellish the bow, I'm using some leftover greenery, pine cones, and berries from Dollar Tree picks that I had. I'm adding some white acrylic paint on the 2 smaller pine cones so they have the same snowy appearance as the larger one. Once they had dried, I then added my accents to the side of the hat. I'm adding all these pieces that I already had on hand, but you can add just about anything you want to this project. With my bow complete and in place, I'm going to be adding some tulle around the palm at the top of the hat. And once again, I'm just using my glue gun and hot gluing some of it into place. And because there's a lot going on the bottom part of the hat, I'm just going to add on a simple sprig of the red berries. To add my accents onto the bottom part of the hat, I'm using some Dollar Tree ornaments that I have out of the package and some new in the package. And once again, I just used my glue gun and I glued them all around the bottom of the tulle. When I was done, I then added a couple to accent my bow. I'm adding some elf legs under my hat, and this set from the Dollar Tree will work great, but I'm using this set of legs that I picked up at Michael's. After Christmas last year, I picked them up for 40 cents each. I removed the tags, added on some hot glue, and then just tucked them under the hat. For the last accent on my elf hat centerpiece, I'm using some of these red and green jingle bells from the Dollar Tree. And just like the ornaments, I'm using my hot glue gun and I'm gluing them randomly all over the tulle. And once I'm done, my Dollar Tree elf centerpiece is ready to display. For this project, I'm duping a gnome-shaped pillow. I'm starting by using 2 of the Dollar Tree Snowflake knit hats, and I actually bought them at separate times, and the weird thing is, one came with a pom-pom and one didn't. Before I get started, I'm removing the tags and the pom-pom, and I won't be using it for this project. I want my gnome to stand up, so I'm using a piece of cardboard, and this is just the insert from a frozen pizza. And then I'm using this little bowl that's about the size of the top of the hat. And then I'm simply tracing it with my pen and then cutting it out with my scissors. Now that I have it cut out, I'm just going to try it in the bottom of the hat to make sure that it fits. I'm then popping it out and adding some hot glue to the inside top of the hat. And then I'm just placing the cardboard back into place. To fill my pillow, I'm using some polyfill that I had in my stash, but you can use anything that you have on hand. And now it's super easy. You just stuff the pillow to whatever size you'd like. When I'm done, and to help keep the filling in the hat, I'm using my glue gun and I'm just kind of folding over one side of the hat and I'm gluing it into place. And after I do it on one side, I then do the exact same thing on the other. To add on my beard and my nose, I'm using one of the gnome stockings from the Dollar Tree. It pulls apart really easy, and then I'm just going to cut away the fabric from the top of the beard and the nose. I actually used one of these and made a gnome pillow, and I'll have that video linked below in case you'd like to check it out. So now that the beard's removed, I'm going to carefully cut off his nose. Now that they're in two pieces, I'm going to place the beard against the pillow, having the bottom part of the beard be flush with the bottom part of the pillow. Then using my glue gun, I'm just attaching the beard into place. I'm now making my gnome's hat, and I'm making sure the snowflake is centered on the front, and I'm going to add in just about a handful of polyfill and kind of push it up to the top. Now making sure that I'm keeping the snowflake in the front, I'm just placing the hat over my gnome. I pulled my hat down on both sides and the back, and then I used my hot glue gun to attach them into place. I then took the nose, tucked it up under the hat, used my hot glue gun to attach it to the beard, and then I placed a little on the top of the nose and attached it to the hat. And now I'm turning him around and I'm tucking in some of the hat fabric, and then I'm adding a bit of hot glue to kind of turn it into a point. When I was done, I then just kind of folded the hat over, and I'm adding on this pretty green pom-pom from the Dollar Tree as his final accent. I removed it from the keychain and just simply hot glued it to the top of his hat. My dupe is slightly different than the Pottery Barn's, but I think he is so cute. Sven the Gnome Pillow is sold out on Pottery Barn, but his friends are going anywhere from $60 to $70. He is currently selling on eBay for $155 and $175, and he only cost me $4 to make. If you're enjoying my video and you're new to my channel, please consider clicking on that little red subscribe button below and leaving me a thumbs up. And to all my returning friends, you're the best. For my next project, I'm using one of the Dollar Tree pizza pans. This time I'm making white chalk paint using my baking soda and white acrylic paint, and once again I'm using about 2.5 tablespoons of white paint to a tablespoon of baking soda. When I'm done and before I paint my pan, I'm removing the label, and I'm going to hang on to this because I'll be using it later in the video. I'm painting the pan with my white chalk paint, but this time I'm only painting the top of the pan. When it's dry, I'm giving it a coat of Mod Podge just to help seal on the paint. For the backing on my sign, I'm using a piece of holiday scrapbooking paper, and mine is two-sided, and I absolutely love the retro ornament side, so I'm going to be using that one. To cut the backing for my pan, I'm taking the insert and I'm placing it on the bottom of the wrong side of my paper. When I have it in place, I'm now taking my pencil and I'm tracing around it. I'm then turning my paper around and matching my label to the sides of my first label, so when I'm done tracing it on, I'll have a complete circle. When I'm done, it's a little difficult to see, but I have a pencil circle and I'm going to cut it out with my scissors. To attach it to my pie plate, I'm once again giving it a coat of Mod Podge, and then I'm just placing my paper in the center. For my hanger, I cut a piece of the Dollar Tree nautical rope and I hot glued it onto the back. To add my Dollar Tree Merry and Bright Christmas sign, I'm going to paint it with the classic Christmas colors of red, white, and green. To raise my sign just a bit off of its base, I'm using 6 of the mini wooden squares from the Dollar Tree. And if you don't have any of these on hand, you can always cut up some of the tumbling tower blocks. I'm giving all 6 of mine a coat of white paint so that they'll blend into the background. Once they're dry, I turned my sign over and I found their placement on the back, and then I hot glued them into place. Now that I'm done, I'm adding some hot glue onto the back of the blocks and placing it on the base. To decorate the top of my sign, I'm using 2 picks from the Dollar Tree, and I'm removing everything but the greenery. In addition to the greenery, I'm also using 2 of the pine cones. I bent the 2 wired ends over into an arch, and then I hot glued them to the top of my sign. Once I have them both attached in place, I'm now going to add on an accent bow, and I'm using some of this pretty holiday polka dot ribbon that I had on hand from Michael's, but the Dollar Tree has a ton of really pretty holiday ribbon. I'm giving myself about a 6-inch tail, and then I'm making a simple bow by just tying 2 loops together. I cut the tails to match, and then I took about a 3-inch piece of ribbon. I folded the sides in, I wrapped it around the center of my bow, and then hot glued it into place. With my ribbon complete, I then dovetailed both of the ends, which is super easy. You just fold the ribbon in half and cut away at an angle. And now, using my glue gun, I attached it in between the 2 pieces of greenery. I'm now adding the pine cones from the picks to my sign, and I'm attaching 1 on each side. With my pine cones both in place, I'm adding on a piece of greenery from the picks to the center of my bow. To finish up, I'm adding on one of the small Dollar Tree tinsel ornaments, and the little hanger pops right off, and then I'm hot gluing it to the center of my bow. And now that I'm done, my merry and bright holiday sign is ready to hang. I'm starting my hanging ornament DIY by using this 8x10 Dollar Tree dark blue frame with gold accents. I'm removing the outer wrapper, the backing, and the glass. There's some little black tabs that hold the glass in place, so I just removed them and they come out pretty easy. I'm using Dollar Tree ornaments for my project, and I'm going to be using an assortment of blue, gold, and 1 white. My gold ornaments have gold hangers, but the rest of my ornaments have silver. So all I'm going to do is change out the silver hangers with the gold hangers from some of my other ornaments. I think it will still look great even if you have silver and gold mixed, or you can always just paint the silver with gold paint. With my hangers all now gold, I'm using some of this pretty blue ribbon to attach them to my frame. I'm sliding one end of the ribbon through the opening in the hanger, and I'm pulling it through just about an inch. Then, using my glue gun, I'm attaching the 2 pieces of ribbon together, and then I'm just cutting off any extra ribbon in the back. When I was done, I then decided how long I wanted my longest ornament to hang, and I cut the ribbon to size. From there, I just continued following the same instructions, adding my ribbon to each ornament, and cutting the length of each ribbon to match the longest hanging ornament. So when I was done, I had all 8 of my ornaments hanging at the same length. I turned my frame over and using my glue gun, I attached the longest hanging ornament near the center top of the frame. I then decided where I wanted my next ornament to hang, and I attached that into place as well. And from there, I just continued adding my ornaments on, staggering them in height. I just kept adding them on next to each other at different lengths until I had all 8 of them attached. To remove the extra ribbon on the top, I just used my scissors and trimmed them off. Now that I'm done, I'm going to add on a simple bow accent, and I'm using some of this pretty gold ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I gave myself about a 6-inch tail, and then I made 2 loops and I tied them together to make a simple bow, and then I gave myself another 6-inch tail. I then cut about a 2-inch piece of matching ribbon and folded both sides into the middle. I then placed it on the center of my bow and hot glued it in place. When I was done, I then used my glue gun and attached it to the top of my frame. And with that, it's complete. I'm starting this project by using one of the 7.5-inch tin planters from the Dollar Tree. It has a jute accent on the top, and you can easily remove it, just pull it away from the planter. When I'm done, I'm wrapping it up and putting it away because I'm sure I'll be using it in a future project. Once it's removed, you'll still see some glue and remnants of the jute, but not to worry because it will be all hidden in the project. I'm using some red spray paint, and I'm tipping my planter upside down so the opening is on the bottom, and I'm giving it a good coat. Sometimes the paint can get easily scratched off the tin, so I'm going to use my Mod Podge and give the exposed area a complete coat. When I'm done, I'm then going to let it dry completely. To add on Santa's belt, I'm using some of the Dollar Tree black acrylic paint. I'm then painting a black band about 2/3 of the way down from the top of the tin. Once my stripe is completely dry, I'm then using one of the microfiber duster mop pads from the Dollar Tree. I'm adding it to the top of the tin, so I measured how wide I wanted it to be, and the furry part is actually sewn onto the pad, so I separated it and then I cut away the furry part, keeping as much of the fabric as possible. And because this doesn't fit completely around the top of the planter, I'm also going to cut a second strip. Now that I have my strip of faux fur, I'm using my glue gun and attaching it around the top of the tin, making sure to cover the area where I removed the jute. After my first strip was attached, I then used my glue gun to attach the second. It was a little longer than I needed, so I just used my scissors and trimmed off the excess. To add the word treats to my Santa tin, I'm using some of these Dollar Tree stickers. They kind of have a plastic front, they're 3D, and they have adhesive backing. I spelled out the word treats, and because they're not the colors that I wanted, I then used my white acrylic paint and I gave them 2 coats. Once they're dry, I want to give them a little color, so I'm using some of my green acrylic paint And I'm just adding a little bit to the end of my paintbrush and tapping it onto the letters. I then kept tapping it away until they had just enough of a green accent. I gave them a few minutes to dry, and to add the word treats, the back of the tin has a seam, so to keep the word centered on the front, I'm starting with my E and the A. Now the letters stay in place pretty good, but I don't really trust that adhesive backing, so I'm going to use some of my E6000, just place it on the end of a paintbrush, and add a little bit to the back of each of the letters. Because this is going to be a gift, I did want to just add this little extra layer of protection to make sure these letters never fall off of this tin. I'm adding a bow to the front of my treats tin, and I'm using some of this black ribbon that I had on hand. I decided about how big I wanted it to be, and then I just made a simple bow. I'm adding a buckle to Santa's belt, so adding on a bow is completely optional. When I'm done, I'm then using my glue gun and attaching it onto the front of the belt. To make Santa's buckle, I'm using 2 of the Dollar Tree popsicle sticks. I measured and cut 2 sticks for the side of my buckle. And then I measured the 2 top pieces and cut 2 of those as well. With all 4 of my pieces cut, I'm going to be attaching them together using my Starbond medium thick glue. This is my go-to glue for all my wood projects. It sets up super quick and it costs about $10. If you'd like to give it a try, I have the company linked below, and they also gave me a coupon code. I glued all 4 of my pieces together and they were set up in just about a minute. I'm using some of my gold acrylic paint and I'm giving Santa's buckle a coat. After the first coat dries, I'm then going to give it a second, but before I let it dry, I'm going to be sprinkling on a little bit of gold glitter. When it had dried completely, I then used my glue gun and attached it to the front of the bow. To make the cover for my tin, I'm using a Dollar Tree patty press. It comes in 2 pieces and I attached them together using some of my E6000. I added some to the top and some to the bottom. I then pressed them together and let them set up for a couple of hours. To add the accent to the top of my handle, I'm using this Santa hat headband that I found at the Dollar Tree. I removed the hat from the headband and then I cut the bottom open. I added some E6000 to the handle, and then I covered it with my Santa's hat. And now that my treats tin and my Santa hat cover is complete, all that's left to do is add in some Christmas candy. For my candle holder, I'm recycling a clean glass pickle jar, and you can pretty much use any size glass jar for this project. I'm using a piece of scrapbook paper with music notes on it, but you can use just about anything you'd like for this project. I'm then wrapping my paper around the jar to make sure that it covers it completely. I then give it a quick snip just before the area where you screw on the lid. I then folded the paper on the snip and cut it into 2 pieces. Now that I have my strip of paper, I'm going to use this little star that I printed out on Pinterest, and I'll have that link below. I'm then tracing it onto the center of the strip of music note paper. I then used my pencil to trace the star onto the paper. When I was done, I then used my X-Acto knife to cut it out. Now that I'm done, I'll save this little star for a future project. To add it to my jar, I'm just using a regular glue stick and adding a good amount of glue around the outline of the star. I'm then adding it to the jar and pressing the star into place. Then on the back of the jar, I'm adding some glue and attaching one piece of the paper to the jar and then both ends together. To embellish the top, I'm going to use some jute or twine, and you can find this at the Dollar Tree. I added a dot of hot glue on the back just above my paper line, and then I attached my jute. From there, I continued wrapping it around until I covered the top of my jar. I then cut off the end and attached that to the jar. To embellish it, I'm using a little pine cone and a piece of greenery that came off of a Dollar Tree pick. I added some hot glue to the top of my jar and added on the greenery. I then added some hot glue onto the back of my pine cone and I attached that as well. To add a pop of color, I'm using one red and one green jingle bell from the Dollar Tree. I'm then slipping both of them onto a piece of jute and then securing them in place with a knot. I placed them near the pine cone, wrapped the jute around the top of my jar, and then just tied the ends into a knot. To make a small bow for my candle holder, I used a piece of the jute and I wrapped it into a figure 8 about 7 or 8 times. When I was done, I cut a smaller piece of jute, I wrapped it around the center, and I tied it off in a knot. I then used my glue gun to attach it to the top of my jar. And to finish up, I always like to use LED candles. I added this pretty Dollar Tree votive to my holder. I'm starting my rustic farmhouse candle tray holder by using one of the metal vases with rope from the Dollar Tree. It measures 5.5 inches tall, and I'm also using one of their pie pans. I'm going to be painting them with chalk paint, and I'm making my own. Everyone makes theirs a little bit different. I'm using about 2.5 tablespoons of black acrylic paint and about a tablespoon of baking soda. When I was done, I gave it a good mixing. You will need to make a couple of batches for this project. I'm giving my pie pan a coat of chalk paint on the top, and then once it dries, I'm going to turn it over and I'll give it a coat on the bottom. I'm making my candle tray holder in black, but I think this would look pretty in just about any color. Before I paint the metal vase, I'm going to use some painter's tape to protect the rope. Now, I'm a messy painter, but if you're a neat painter, you can just completely skip this step. Once I have it covered, I'm going to give it a coat of my black chalk paint, and you'll need to give each of these pieces 2 coats for full coverage. Now that it's dry, I'm going to remove the painter's tape, and on the bottom, there's a little lip of silver, so I'm just going to hit that quickly with my chalk paint. Now that both of my pieces are dry, I'm going to give them a coat of clear acrylic, but if you don't have any of this on hand, you can also use some Mod Podge. Now that they are dry and the finish is protected, I'm going to attach them together using my E6000. I added a generous amount on the top edge and then placed my pie pan on top, making sure it was centered. I let them set up overnight, and now I'm going to be adding on a bow accent using some of this Dollar Tree buffalo check ribbon. I cut a strip of the ribbon, I wrapped it around the base, and then I tied it into a simple bow. When I was done, I then used my scissors to cut the tails just a little bit shorter. I'm going to add an accent to my base, and you can add anything you'd like. I've had these 4 tin stars since I can remember, and they've definitely seen better days, so I'm going to give them each a coat with my silver hammered spray paint. Now that they're dry, I'm going to attach each of them evenly spaced around the rope base using my glue gun. To finish up my rustic farmhouse candle tray, I used some of the greenery from the Dollar Tree along with their silver and red bells and one of the Dollar Tree's white LED candles. And with that, my festive candle holder is ready for the holidays. To start my song sheet dupe, I'm actually starting with a very old picture that my daughter Brianna drew when she was young. She's now 28 years old and a teacher, and she also has a YouTube channel called Coffee Breaks with Bree, which I will link below in case you'd like to check it out. And in this picture, if you notice, we both don't have a nose. The reason I'm sharing this picture is I remembered I put it away a long time ago, but I knew the frame would be perfect for this project. I removed the picture and the backing, and then when I removed the glass, I noticed it really needed a good cleaning. When I was done, I found the exact same Joy to the World music sheet that I'm duping from Magnolia free on Pinterest. I downloaded it and I printed it out on an 8.5 by 11 lightweight cardstock. I trimmed it to fit and then placed it in my 9 by 11 frame. If you'd like to dupe one of these for your home, I'll have the free Pinterest link below in my description. I made my Magnolia music sheet dupe for free, and on the Magnolia site, their cost is $174. They do have a much larger version. Theirs is 2 feet by 3 feet, which I like my smaller version because it fits nicely in my home and doesn't take up that much space. I'm starting my Christmas DIY by using 3 heavyweight glasses that I picked up at the Goodwill. They each measure 3.5 inches tall, and they cost me $1.99 a piece. For the base in my project, I'm using 2 9-inch Pilsner style glasses and a 6-inch glass. They're all heavyweight, and they cost me 99 cents each at Goodwill. I was inspired to make my Christmas candle holders when I saw these at the Pottery Barn for $99. I removed the price stickers and washed and dried each of them. Using my E6000, I'm going to attach the 6-inch and one of the 3.5-inch glasses together. I turned my larger glass over, and then on the bottom, I applied a generous amount of my E6000. Then all I did was place the smaller glass on top. I made sure it was centered, and then I placed it aside to let it set up. And now I'm following the exact same instructions for my 2 larger glasses. I just turned them over, added some E6000 to the bottom, and then attached the smaller glass on the top. These are the glasses that I found at Goodwill, but you can use a variety of different styles and shapes. I let them all set up overnight, and because I want to use them year-round, I'm going to add on a simple bow accent. I'm going to add on this pretty holiday ribbon, and I have had it on hand since forever. I think it cost me 50 cents for the roll, but the Dollar Tree has some really pretty ribbon that would work great for this project. I decided how long I wanted my tails and loops to be, and then I just made a simple bow. And my simple bow is pretty much just tying 2 loops that are the same size together. After I made my first ribbon, I just matched up the size and I made 2 more. Because I don't want to attach them permanently, I'm going to use 3 pieces of floral wire and just slide 1 in the back of each of my bows. I made sure to even up the ends of the wire once I pulled them through. Now that they're done attaching them to the holders, it's super easy. All I'm going to do is take the 2 pieces of wire and wrap them around where I attached the 2 glasses together. There's like a slight indentation, and then twist the wire tightly in the back. You can always clip your extra wire off. I just kind of folded mine over. After I finished my first one, I then followed the exact same instructions for the other 2. The Pottery Barn placed pine cones in their candle holders, but I wanted to be a little more festive, so I'm going to place some bells that I found at the Dollar Tree in mine. To fill my holder, I'm just tipping it on its side and filling the base with the different colored bells. It doesn't have a bottom, but I just held my hand over the base and everything stayed inside. When I was done, I just filled up my other 2 holders the exact same way. You can use real candles in this project. I know the Dollar Tree sells some in their own glass votive. I myself prefer to use the LED candles. I picked mine up at the Christmas tree shop, but I know they sell a similar version at the Dollar Tree. I turned each of them on and then I just added them to the top of my holders. Once all my candles were added, my Pottery Barn glass candle holder dupe is ready to display. For my sparkly snowflake candle holder, I'm using this heavy glass jar that I picked up at the Goodwill for $1.99. And I'm also using a snowflake from my last project. I washed it and removed the price sticker, and now I'm going to add on just some snowflake window clings that I had in my stash. These are everyday window clings, and I'm just randomly placing them around the outside of my jar. To add the sparkle to the outside of my snowflake jar, I'm using some Epsom salt and just a hint of glitter. I added some of the Epsom salt into a plastic container and then added in a small amount of glitter. I gave it a good mixing and then set it aside. To attach the mixture to my snowflake jar, I'm giving it a complete coat of Mod Podge, with the exception of the top edge. Now that I have it completely covered, I'm going to place it over a box and then sprinkle on my Epsom salt mixture. Once it has a complete coat, I'm then setting it aside to let it dry. Now that it's completely dry, I'm rubbing off any of the loose salt. When I'm done, and to help the remaining salt stay on the jar, I'm giving mine a coat of acrylic spray. But if you don't have any of this on hand, you can always give it another coat of Mod Podge. Now that my jar is completely dry, I'm going to add on a snowflake accent. I'm using one of the snowflakes that I had left over from my wreath, and I also had this really pretty blue one in my stash. Using my hot glue gun, I'm attaching the two together. I have a broken Dollar Tree snowflake ornament, so I hung onto this and I'm going to add this to the center of the other two. Now adding it onto my snowflake jar is as easy as hot gluing it into place. To give my snowflake jar a bit of a more finished look, I'm going to use some white acrylic paint and paint the top edge. To finish up, I'm going to use this Dollar Tree snowflake as the base for my candle holder. Now that we're done, you can add in a real candle or an LED candle. I'm going to add in some fairy lights. All I did was place mine inside, and I even tucked in the battery pack. This is so pretty and easy to make, and you can keep it up long after the holiday decor is put away. For this Kirkland's dupe, I'm starting with a green fabric placemat from the Dollar Tree. I removed all the tags and I'm going to be working on the front side. My pillow has a gnome, so I'm going to be using this one from a Dollar Tree Christmas stocking. I only need the beard and the nose, so I just kind of pulled the beard away from the stocking, and then I used my scissors to remove the top part. Kirkland's pillow is square and mine's going to be rectangle, but I'm going to try to dupe it as close as I can. Their beard is a little rounder than mine, so I'm placing mine against the pillow to find the size, and then I'm giving it a little trim. To make his hat, I'm going to use a piece of this navy blue felt that I had in my stash and someone had given it to me a long time ago. I cut a large triangle out of the felt, just big enough so that it would cover right up to the gnome's nose and hang a little bit over the edge. I then used a marker and just kind of drew a large scallop edge on both sides. And then I used my scissors to cut it out. And when I was done, I placed both pieces where I wanted them to be on my pillow. Before I attach my two pieces, I'm going to use my ruler to make sure that they're perfectly centered in the middle of my pillow. To stuff my pillow, I'm just lifting up the gnome's beard and I'm making a slice in the top part of the fabric with my scissors. And it kind of looks like a mouth. And now I'm just using my hot glue gun to attach the beard and the hat, and I'm making sure that I don't attach the beard over the opening. With my hat and my beard attached, I'm adding on a cord accent. A friend of mine gave me a huge bag of embellishments, and you know who you are. And so what I'm going to do is use my glue gun, and I'm going to add the cord around the outside of the hat and on the upper part of the beard. I'm starting at the top of the hat so that I can hide the edge, and I'm also using my finger protector because it's really easy to get burned. I'm duping the Kirkland's pillow, but I think this would look cute in an assortment of different colors. And I'm making my pillow out of one of the Dollar Tree placemats, but you can always use a pre-made pillow and just add your gnome onto that. Now that I have the cord attached to the hat, I'm going to add on some snowflake accents. I'm going to paint 2 of these wooden Dollar Tree snowflakes with my white acrylic paint. I decided where I wanted them to be placed and then attached them with my hot glue gun. I'm adding 3 more silver accent snowflakes by using the inside pieces of these white felt snowflakes from the Dollar Tree. I pulled off 3 of the silver snowflakes and added them to my hat, and then I used my glue gun to attach them into place. It's finally time to stuff the pillow, and I'm using some polyfill that I had on hand, and I'm just stuffing it in the hole that I made under the gnome's beard. I just kept feeding in the polyfill until the pillow was nice and fluffy. When I was done, I then used my glue gun and attached the beard over the opening and sealing the polyfill in place. And now once again, I'm using my glue gun and I'm adding the same cord around the outside of my pillow. I'm adding the cord to my pillow because I'm trying to dupe the Kirkland's pillow, but if you're making this for yourself, this step is completely optional. Once again, I'm trying to dupe the Kirkland pillow, but I think this gnome pillow would be so cute in a whole bunch of different colors. When I'm done, and for my final accent on the pillow, I'm using one of the pom-poms from one of these baby hats that I found at the Dollar Tree a while ago. I cut one off the top of the hat and then hot glued it to the top of my gnome. I love the way my gnome pillow came out, and this only cost me $2 because I had everything on hand other than the placemat and the gnome stocking. My gnome resembles the Kirkland's gnome pillow, and they want $24.99 for theirs, and I think mine's just as cute for a whole lot less. I'm starting this project by using one of the Dollar Tree's Farmer Market's 2022 calendars. They have some really cute pictures, and I'm going to end up using December's Happy Holidays for my project. After I have it removed, I'm going to place it aside and make it space. For the riser, I'm using one of these Dollar Tree signs, and it measures 11 by 11, which is the same size as the calendar. I'll be using the back, and for the legs, I'm using these Dollar Tree Lego style treat boxes that I found in the toy department. I'm going to be attaching one in each corner using my E6000. I'm going to be working on the back of the sign, so I turned it over, and I'm attaching one block in each corner. And to give my riser little feet, I'm making sure the stud side of the Lego is facing up. I'm turning my riser over, and I'm using just about one full package of these Dollar Tree tumbling tower blocks. I'm giving my riser 4 double edges, so I'm measuring 2 layers of blocks on one end. It totals 12 blocks, so I used 24, and I made one for the top and one for the bottom. To attach them together, I'm using my Quick-Set Starbond thick glue, and it's my go-to glue for all my unfinished wood projects. I'm attaching the 12 top pieces together and then the 12 bottom. The Starbond glue attaches them together in about 5 minutes. It's so quick, and if you'd like to give it a try, I have the company linked below along with a discount coupon code. Once they're all attached, I'm placing each on the riser. I'm then adding more blocks to see how many I'll need for the sides. I ended up with a small space that is exactly one width of one of the blocks, so I ended up measuring it, and I cut 4 of them to size. I once again used my Starbond thick glue to attach them together, and I added the short pieces on the ends. While I was letting my pieces set up, I used some vanilla acrylic paint, and I coated the entire riser. I ended up giving the legs 2 coats of paint, and when it was completely dry and I was adding my Happy Holidays calendar page. Because the word holidays was so close to the right edge, I ended up taking about an inch or so off from the left side of the picture. To attach it, I used a glue stick and made sure to add plenty to the top. When I was done, I added my picture, and you'll see that there's about an inch showing of the riser on the right-hand side. I then flattened it down, pressing away any of the wrinkles, and I had tried Mod Podge in the past. It was a complete nightmare. There was so many wrinkles, and all the lines and the numbers from underneath the page came through, so that's why I ended up using a glue stick. When that was complete, I then used the same vanilla color acrylic paint, and I painted all 4 of my block sides. I only painted the 3 sides and the ends because the bottom part I'm attaching onto the riser. On the Happy Holidays page, there are some wood accents on the top and the bottom. So I'm using some brown acrylic paint in my paintbrush, and I'm just adding some random lines here and there on my wood edges. Then using my finger, I'm just kind of rubbing in the marks to give the appearance of birch wood. I just wanted to give my riser a bit of character, but this is completely optional. You can always just leave them plain. When I was done, I then followed the same instructions for all 4 of the legs. When all my pieces were dry, I then once again used my E6000 to attach on the wooden sides to the riser. I'm making a Christmas riser with my Dollar Tree calendar, but I think you could use any month and it would come out super cute. I'm adding on some accent handles, and once again using my Starbond glue, I glued 2 sets of 3 tumbling blocks together along with 2 sets of 2 tumbling blocks together. I'm painting my 2 sets of 2 with a crimson acrylic paint and my 2 sets of 3 with a forest green along with 2 single blocks. Once they're dry, I'm then using my E6000 and I'm attaching them to the top and the bottom of the riser in a stacked format. I'm placing the 2 greens on the bottom, the red in the middle, and then another green on the top. And when I was done, my Dollar Tree calendar Christmas riser was complete, and you can also stand it up on its legs and use it as a Christmas backdrop. I'm starting this DIY by using 4 of the white pillar candles from the Dollar Tree. One thing about the Dollar Tree candles is the wax is whipped and you can see some air bubbles in it, so it behaves a little different than a regular candle. When you melt them down, you end up with a lot less wax, so that's why I'm using 4 for this project. I found the easiest way to melt the wax is to cover a cookie sheet in tin foil, place my candles on top, and then place them in an oven at 300 degrees for about 10 to 15 minutes. I'm making my ice cream sundae first, and I'm coloring the wax with these Dollar Tree crayons. I want to give my ice cream some color, so I'm using these 2 brown crayons that I found in the box. And to give my candle a scent, I'm going to use some of these vanilla scented wax cubes that I already had on hand. I peeled the wrappers from the crayons, and I'm also using a couple of skewers from the Dollar Tree. I'm using 2 of the candles, and you can see now that they're melted down how much less is in each one. To remove the wicks, I'm using the skewer and I'm carefully pulling them out of the top. To give them that delicious vanilla scent, I'm dropping a wax cube into each of them. To give my wax a bit of color, I'm breaking the crayons in half and I'm adding those in as well. I'm then using a skewer to carefully mix together the cubes and the crayons until they're all melted. Now that my wax is all melted and mixed, I'm going to use this glass ice cream cup that I found at the Dollar Tree for my ice cream sundae. I'm using one of the wicks from the pillar candles and I just kind of rub the excess wax off the bottom. Then using my glue gun, I placed a dot at the bottom of the cup and attached the wick in place. I used my skewer to press it into the glue and then I wrapped my wick around the skewer to keep it straight. With my wax melted and my wick in place, I'm carefully filling up the ice cream cup. I wasn't sure how much wax I would need and I have a little bit left over, so I'll just save that for another project. To make my whipped cream and to enhance the white color, I added in a half white crayon and mixed it around in the pillar candle until it was melted. Once the crayon's all melted, I'm then adding some of the wax into a tin pie pan. I'm then using a stainless steel spoon that I found at the Dollar Tree and I just keep stirring and scraping the wax off the sides of the pan until I end up with a fluffy white wax. So basically, as the wax is cooling, I'm just adding some air back into it, and when you're done, you'll have some nice fluffy whipped cream. Now all you need to do is just scoop it on top of your ice cream sundae. I just continued on making the whipped wax and adding it to the top of the sundae, and I think I ended up using about 1 1/2 of the pillar candles. When I was done and before the wax set up, I used some shavings from a red and green crayon, and then I sprinkled them over my sundae to make Christmas sprinkles. And now while the wax is still warm, I'm taking that same stainless steel spoon and I'm pushing it down through the whipped cream and into the ice cream. To make the cherry for the top, I just melted a red crayon in some of the leftover wax. And once it was pretty much cooled, I just took a small amount and I rolled it between my hands to make the cherry. I added it to the top, and with that, my ice cream sundae candle is complete. I'm starting this project by using one of the Dollar Tree's wooden pallets. I'm turning it into a riser and I'm using 8 of the tumbling tower blocks. I'm once again using my Starbond medium thick glue and I'm gluing 2 blocks together, so I'll end up having a total of 4. The glue sets up super fast, and so I'm using the same Starbond glue and adding the blocks to the bottom of the pallet. Now that I have all my wood glued and attached together, I'm going to use some of my white acrylic paint and give it one complete coat. With my riser completely dry, I'm going to add on a little holiday accent, and I'm using these wooden Christmas tree stickers from the Dollar Tree. Adding them on was super easy. I just placed a dot of hot glue on the front of both legs, and then I just popped the stickers in place. I'm using this plastic bathtub and I found it in the toy department at the Dollar Tree, and I'm also going to be using some of the Dollar Tree's foam letters. I actually used these on a gnome project that I made, and after you check out my friend's amazing gift videos, come on back and I'll have that gnome video linked below. Because this is a holiday video, I'm going to be using the red and green, and I'm just spelling out the word bath on the side of the tub. With my 2 pieces complete, I picked up a few things at the Dollar Tree to add into the tub. I'm using one of the Dollar Tree white face cloths, and I'll make sure it's washed before it's used. It's already folded in half, so I'm folding it in half again lengthwise and then rolling it into a ball. I'm then using a piece of Dollar Tree holiday ribbon. I'm wrapping it around to hold it together and making a bow. When I was done, I then arranged all the gift goodies in the tub. I also found a 3-pack of yellow duck snack clips at the Dollar Tree, so I made a small holiday bow and I attached it to the duck's neck. And hey, what is a bathtub without a little yellow duck? When I was done, I placed my bathtub on the riser, and with that, my holiday guest gift is complete. Here we are at the end of the video, and I really hope you enjoyed making these holiday and winter DIYs with me. If you're new to my channel and you're thinking, hey, I'd like to come back and hang out with her again, don't forget to click that little red subscribe button below. If you're looking for more holiday and winter inspiration, I'll link some videos here for you to check out. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon. Bye, everybody!